That's the crux of critical race theory. And let me just explain this to the listeners who haven't
Okay.
listened to my other stuff. Critical race theory that's being bandied about in the news is a very different interpretation. And so let me start with the original idea of it. So it started in the mid 70s with Derek Bell and Kimberly Crenshaw and other academics at the graduate school level and law school level. So this is a very high end pursuit that academia has historically been known for, is that if they can actually start to foster ideas with some of the biggest thinkers, then they think that will leach down into the culture. And so it's been that since the 70s. It is specifically about how America is racist from its origin for slavery, how racism is woven into our culture, our institutions, our language, our thinking. And a lot of it is implicit now. It was explicit, obviously, during slavery and Jim Crow and those kind of pieces, but the academic pursuit specific to these scholars was to try to understand what systemic racism has done to the Black community. And then they extended that to Chicano communities and Asian communities and other people of let's just say, marginalized communities, right? So that was where critical race theory started. And then I think Kimberly Crenshaw actually coined the term intersectionality specific to the feminist literature in the 70s and 80s, where it started to come out and said, hey, women are being oppressed. We need to do something for these women. And there was, all the equality movements around that. And what she then pointed out was, okay, it is one thing to be a female, white, and be oppressed. But what about a Black female? That's a very different piece. And so there's intersections to racism and culture and all of these pieces. And so intersectionality was another academic pursuit to understand how does all this factor in. And so what took place, and this is what I mentioned previously, in the 1,300 times that it was mentioned on Fox News, you can see protests of parents in front of schools. We don't want CRT taught to our children. And this is where language is so important in our culture. And this is, I guess, part of the burr in my saddle here is that I've spent 20 years in the media business and I understand how important language is. And when you misrepresent language, it causes huge problems. And this is the case, in that we're not teaching critical race theory, which is a graduate school, law school level intellectual pursuit, to 8-year-olds. So that's just categorically false to begin